Okay, so I've had a couple people ask me about my settings, the settings that I use in-game. There's a lot more settings on PC than there are on mobile, but I'll try to talk about mobile as well as PC. And yeah, so both the settings and the controls buttons here. So, I mean, top graphics quality, I mean, having it as high as possible is ideal, and having it higher means that you can more accurately tell what things are at a distance. So, like, when somebody's, like, really far away, having higher graphics quality means it's more likely for you to like actually tell what they're using, like what mechs and weapons that they're using. Now you can always look at the pilot that they're using to see and just guess like what type of weapon they're using. If they're using like a close quarters pilot, for example, they're probably using a revoker, right? So that's just it's a nice rule of thumb there. But higher graphics means that you can actually see what they're using from a distance, and that's helpful. The bloom I keep off. I think this is for the like I think it actually like visually hinders you. I think it makes it harder for you to tell what things are and harder for you to see certain things. And it also takes up more of your device performance, so like your game will run slightly slower, and it'll also be slightly worse, so I would always keep bloom off. FPS limit I have at 60 just because that's the rate that I record at. Higher is technically better for just smoother gameplay, but if you're not recording anything, it kind of doesn't really matter, I don't think. The same thing with VSync. It just prevents like tiny little visual glitches happening during games, which wouldn't be an issue while I'm playing, but for the sake of YouTube and for making like the video slightly smoother, I keep that on. This filtering is just a texture thing, so like I could turn that on. It just makes it so that textures are slightly more visible, slightly more clear and crisp and whatever at distance or at weird angles and stuff like that. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's just going to make your game run slower, and you're not really going to get any value from that. The shadow quality you want at least on medium or high, and this is for everybody. So off and low. Well, the off, obviously you're not going to see shadows at all, but low you're not going to be able to really see shadows very clearly. They're going to be very blurry. Medium is a bit more clear. Well, the reason shadows are nice to have on is because like if there's, let's say, an enemy on top of you, you can see the shadow that it's projecting onto the ground or the wall that's next to you, and you can actually like tell what it is just by looking at the shadow, or you can spot enemies that you didn't know were there by just looking at the shadow, right? So keeping either medium or high, I think medium's good enough. My computer is not phenomenal, so I try to save as much game performance as I can by turning off as many of these things as I can. Motion blur, I think, is an active hindrance, and it would just make my game run slower. I have that off. Ambient occlusion, I think, same thing. It makes it harder to see certain things, I think. You know, it's nice for like the realism effect, but in terms of things, it's like it doesn't really help, and it also makes your game run slightly slower, so I turn that off. Anti-aliasing, I have that on. This is another thing that I mostly have on for the sake of just YouTube, because it makes the edges of certain things, like buildings, whatever, it just makes the edges a bit sharper and less pixelated. So I just kind of messed around with the settings in here until I found one that I thought looked the best. Field of view, if you're on mobile, you don't have this option. You don't have a lot of these options on mobile, but a lot of these aren't really necessary. But the field of view is a really, really good one. This is a feature that only PC version has. Turning this up to 90 is phenomenal because it means that you can see things around corners a lot easier. It means that you can see people that are coming up to you from the side. You can see things a lot sooner than you otherwise would. I think it defaults to like 60 or something, but 90 is really nice. The battle HUD scale, kind of up to you. I just leave it as small as possible because I don't really need it. FPS and ping, usually a good one to have on just because it's like if your ping's really high, it's nice to know about it, right? I turn the music and the speech off just because it makes for easier editing while I'm making videos, because then music on top of music and it's kind of weird, so obviously I turn that off. And then the speech is like when I'm editing between kills or whatever during a match. It's annoying to have that narrator guy talking to you the entire time because like sometimes I'll have to like cut him out halfway. On to controls. Customizing, you cannot customize your controls on PC. Like if I wanted to rebind, I can't rebind them. I'm trying my best. You can't actually rebind these keys. You can see what they are, but you can't actually rebind them. The only way to rebind it is to like go to your computer itself and then rebind the key function from there, keeping in mind what it does here. But then there's like the centered layout, the right shifted layout. This is for the stuff on the bottom. I think centered looks better. Maybe because I have my camera on the left more often than not, it might be a better idea to keep it to the right, but I think center's fine. Mouse sensitivity, I mean, mine's at 4, but just because my mouse itself, like the mouse that I use, has really high sensitivity just normally when I'm in the game. So like most people, I think, would have it a bit further up. Yeah. Honestly, for everybody, it's a bit different, but you want to mess with it with several different weapons. Having it higher is usually better than having it too low, because high you can get used to. Low is like you have to just like swing your mouse really, really far, and that can waste time, and that's not really ideal. These button, I would not mess with those, because that just makes it so that like when you're in the game, it's like opposite. So like when I move my mouse right, it turns my mech left, for example. And then the same thing with this, like when I move it up, it turns the camera down. It's just weird, I guess. Some people might like that, but I really doubt it. This gamepad stuff is for if you have a controller connected. So this doesn't have anything to do with my mouse. I haven't touched this at all. This is just if you have a controller connected. The crosshair, up to you. I personally just make it as small as possible, to be honest. The damage display I like to keep on this, because this will tell me whether or not like I'm inside optimal range or this, that, or the other thing. You definitely want to be able to see your damage numbers. It's just nice to know that. You also, like if the numbers are orange or whatever, it's usually an indicator that you got double damage, like if your weapon has a double damage chance. But I like to, you know, get as much information from it as possible. So I just keep it at that. The mod display, absolutely you need this on. If it's off, change it, turn it on right now, dude. It's just incredibly important information. If I'm using a Railgun Orion, even just in this little graphic example here, it has an epic perimeter multilayer. Whether or not they have that entirely determines whether or not I shoot at them with a Railgun Orion. Like I'm not going to bother shooting at somebody with a multilayered shield without, if they're not marked. I'm just not going to bother. It's pointless, because it's just going to take down 1 or 2 layers, and it's not going to do anything. So this is incredibly vital information to have. Really important to know which of your weapons and which of your mechs you're going to need. And you know, if you're using a mech or a weapon that doesn't do well against mods, then you can use your ability to take down mods, maybe. Or in my case, I could use Orion to bypass the mods to some degree. Or you could just wait for like a teammate to take them down. But it's in general just really, really, really necessary to see that information. You should absolutely always have that on. And then for this, I think a lot of people don't really realize the difference between these. This is the best aiming mode. This just lets you aim wherever you want. This will automatically lock onto people vertically. So like if you're looking at somebody, then it'll automatically move the cursor to whatever height it needs to be, and then it's up to you to like move it left or right to actually do that. There's a lot of aim assist on this one. So this one can be decent for like snipers or long range weapons, and that's okay, but you know, just get better at aiming, honestly. Like I've used this mode on mobile as well, and it's not that hard. It's just a matter of getting used to it. If you really hate this one, between these two, this is the better one. If you're on mobile, every time you switch aiming systems, it messes up your controls, like where you positioned your buttons and stuff, which I'm sorry, I don't really have any advice for that. I think depending on whether or not you're like a really casual player sort of determines where you should put your buttons, because some people do like the claw thing where they can put like 4 fingers on the screen at the same time. I never did that. I always just use my thumbs. So yeah, like just mess with the buttons, see how you want it. But if you're on mobile and you swap this mode, this aiming mode, it's going to reset your buttons back to the default. So I just go with this one so that you can get used to it and not have to worry about moving your buttons again. Apart from that, like there's not really much to know. Like there's not a whole lot of different settings, and I mean there's nothing like super crazy going on with that. Only thing I will say is that some people, if they're on PC, then some people might have like additional buttons on the side of their mouse. I do as well, I have to. So some people might want to map those buttons to certain things so that you can do whatever. Like put the escape key on one of those buttons so that you can change mechs quicker or something like that. Some people have written like scripts to where like if you press a button, it'll automatically go to the menu, press the change mech button, and then change your mech for you in like a fraction of a second. I will say that is against the game's terms of service. Do not do that. You can remap buttons as much as you want, though. It's just like a shortcut, right? For me, I do have the escape key hooked to one of my mouse buttons, but everything else is just I have my buttons mostly set up for easy video editing, to be honest. But yeah, that's just a decent note to make, especially if your hands are really small like mine are, and your pinky cannot reach the escape key, really. Anyway, yeah, that's about it. Hopefully I was able to help anybody who is looking for help on that issue specifically. Otherwise, yeah, that'll be it for me. Appreciate y'all. Take care.